I get asked quite a bit by my friends and even coworkers, "Will, how do you polish those cool rocks of yours?" So I thought it'd be a great idea to show the process I go through to polish up my rocks. It's quite fun, actually. Once you get started, it can be quite addicting to see how something so rough turns into something so amazing. So what I use here is a flat lap, the 8-inch version made by High Tech Diamond. It's the all you need. I'll put a link in the description. And it is all you need. It's very compact. I love this machine. This is the water reservoir. You always want to make sure it's filled with water. You don't ever want to be breathing in the rock dust. Silica's not good on the lungs. You get these different discs that spin around. They have different grit. And that goes through the different steps for polishing, smoothing, roughing out, shaping your stones. So earlier I posted an exploring video on me collecting hematite for paint. What I do is I ground up the hematite into powder and I use it as a pigment in my paint. It creates a really beautiful deep maroon red, almost a blood red type of hue, and it works really well with paint. So what I have here, I figured this would be a great rock to start with today, is a bit of jasper, and I've already ground down most of the hematite on this particular rock. So what I want to do is I want to get this surface nice and rounded and shiny. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link for it right up here. You guys can check out that video of me collecting some rocks and exploring around Sycamore Creek. It was a fun day. But yeah, let's go through the steps and get started on this, alright? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some safety goggles first, safety first. Make sure I got my water filled up in the reservoir here. I've got the little drain pan right here, so the water runs through, keeps the lap nice and wet. Gets all filled up in this area where it finally drains in this pan. You always want to keep an eye on this because this can fill, start to overflow. Next thing you have is a really crazy disaster on your hands. That's never a good thing. Alright, so let's get to it. Let's get started on this, alright? Alright, so I got my safety glasses on. We're all set up and good to go. Got the water filled in. Got the disc all on. Let's make sure that is on tight. And we're getting ready to get this started out. I got my rock right here. A bit of the hematite, like I said, on the top. We're going to buff that down a little bit. I still want to keep it because that's what's going to make the really nice metallic sheen to it. So we got our hematite here. We're ready to get started soon. You can see it's got the nice sheen to it. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of knock this down a little bit, make it smooth. I want to keep the hematite because that's what's still got the nice sheen to it. We're not going to go too crazy into the jasper. I kind of want to keep the shape of it. That natural look is nice, so we can use a piece. I'll kind of just cab out maybe the front top part. We'll see as we go. Sometimes you start out with something and then you want to keep going and turn it into a nice little shape or something. So we'll see what happens with that. I got my water trough completely filled. Basically what you do is you just turn this little knob right here. You're going to adjust it till something starts coming out, which isn't happening yet. I got a lot of calcium in my water, hard water, so it builds up, plugs up pretty quick. So sometimes I have to turn that knob on pretty full in order to get some water coming out. I'm going to try and lower the noise just a little bit. It does get, like I said, pretty loud, this particular step. If you live in an apartment, the neighbors are going to love you for it. So first we want to get our water going. So we had a little bit coming out earlier, but I need more than that. You can see it's starting to drip pretty good. I'm going to turn this on. Take my rock off first. It does vibrate, so. Alright, so we're on speed number 1. I'm going to get the lap nice and wet here. Probably crank it up to number 3. I usually don't use anything between 3 and 4 on this particular step. So basically what you want to do is you're going to take your hand, hold it. So one important thing is to keep this thing moving around. You'll see how I rock it around on my hand quite a bit. You don't want it to stay in one place too long, otherwise you can start to develop a flat surface in the area. we're going for a domed kind of rounded surface. So it's very important to make sure you keep it moving around. We're almost done with the first step too, so let's just keep going a little bit longer on it. Alright, so I think we're done with the first step. Got it nice and smoothed out. Got it a bit rounded too. I don't want to go too far because if I start taking off too much, since I've already shaved off quite a bit for that paint, I'm going to wind up going straight down to the Jasper and I'll lose that nice sheen to it. Alright, so we're going to move on to the next step. I've got here 180 grit diamond disc. We're going to go ahead and put this one on in. It's real easy to do. All you got to do is loosen this right here. This comes right off. Pop off the old disc, set it aside. Careful, sometimes they can be a little damp and wet. Plug that in, you're going to feel it click into a little hole. Now make sure this thing's nice and tight. Make sure you turn your water back on again. So too much flow right there. Perfect. So we're going to use about number 3 on the speed setting right now. Shouldn't need anything more than that for this particular rock. Alright, and again, make sure you keep that rocking around motion to keep it from getting too flat. You want to knock off these little tiny imperfections that are on here. It's definitely coming along. Alright, so we're done with this step now. I got it nice and smoothed out, and it's definitely ready for the next step. This particular step though, this is the last time I used these diamond discs right here before I go into a different material that I use to polish. I consider this to be one of my most important steps. I've noticed a lot of my rocks, this is a make or break type of step. If you don't get all your scratches and imperfections out, usually in this, every other disc that you use from here on out kind of just snowballs, where it's going to be really nice and polished, or you're going to constantly see those imperfections that the next steps just won't be able to get out. So usually it's best to just focus on this, take your time on this particular step where it's your last time using the diamonds. You want to make sure you get it all buffed out and scratch free. I do notice this rock has some cavities that are starting to form on the top, so hopefully that won't be a problem down the road. Sometimes these things really stand out when you get to that final polishing stage. Alright, let's switch our discs and get ready for the next step. And this step really gets off those fine little indentations. So again, this is another important step. If you see yourself starting to find some cavities or some dents that it just won't go away, it'd be a good idea to switch back to the 180 right here. And just take your time, examine your rock, make sure everything's going pretty well. Right now this is looking pretty decent. I'm a bit worried about this corner here, but the main surface overall looks pretty good. So again, we turn our water on. Always want to make sure you have that water. And this one I'll let it run for a while because it's kind of like a cloth, fabric type of weird material. So you want that to be nice and wet. So I let it fill up for a little bit. Now we got way too much water coming out, so we're going to ease off on that. I have nothing coming out right now. There we go. So once you got it nice and wet, you just need a little small drop to keep dripping every few seconds. This is perfect. I'll probably go up to a number 4. Yeah, let's crank this up just a little bit here. Alright, here we go. Alright, that's looking pretty good for this step as well. It's really nice and smooth now. We just got 2 more steps to go. It's a good time to really look it over. Make sure everything's looking pretty decent. Because the last 2 steps really don't do any more abrasion. And just get rid of the small, tiny imperfections in this. Start really getting that nice sheen to come out. It's really starting to look quite nice. Alright, so the next step is this red disc. Same thing, we just attach it right on in. Make sure it's nice and tight. Get some good water on here. And get a nice trickle coming out after we got it good and flooded. And again, we'll use about 4 on this for the speed setting. It's a little bit less water. It's being a little bit stubborn there. Alright, so let's get started on this. This is really going to start to bring out some shine to it, the red pad. Alright, so this red step now is done. I don't know if you can see, it's really starting to shine up here. Really beautiful, wow. I love how this hematite shines up. You can see some of the jasper streaking through as well. Really makes this a beautiful, beautiful piece. Then you have your natural stone right underneath it. Alright, so here we are on the last and final step. Get this thing nice and polished up. I've got the blue pad already set in here, and we're ready to go. So for the final step, I usually go with about 4 to 5 on the speed setting. The higher the speed, the faster it goes around, of course. But it seems to buff out any imperfections pretty quick. So I do like that setting. Gets pretty loud though, the faster it goes as well. Don't forget to turn the water on. Nice and wet. And then ease it back to just a trickle. See the shine really starting to pop out now. All right. That looks pretty decent. Alright, normally I don't use this for hematite, but I thought it'd be a nice thing to show anyway. As I got this buff pad, and it is powdered with some aluminum oxide, which helps bring out that extra polish, and I don't really think it needs it, but it'll definitely help it pop a little more. So what I usually do is I'll take a little squirt bottle, add some water to it to help get it moist, and I'll set it to about number 2 on the settings for speed, and just give it a nice, really light. You don't have to push any pressure on this. Don't want to go too overboard. It's real light pressure. Oh, beautiful. Alright guys, so there you go, how to use one of these flat lap machines to polish your rocks. I think it turned out really nice. Take some pictures here and show that so you guys can see it closer up, all the little details in it. So if you guys like this video, make sure you subscribe. It'll help this channel along. I might wind up doing some more of these videos on polishing rocks. I had a real fun time actually doing this, and I just have a real big passion for rocks, rock hounding, polishing, lapidary, you name it, I just love it. So this is definitely something I really enjoy, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video too. Thanks so much for watching.